It's the pop culture field, and you will.
Right here, this little gap. I just
okay.
you know what I realized? I always thought it was just crooked. Turns out, like, no, I chipped my tooth, and it's a gap because that entire side is chipped off.
Oh, dang.
So,
Do you
yeah,
know
yeah.
when that happened?
Yeah, I know exactly when it happened.
Oh.
Yeah, I know exactly when it happened too. Like I've chipped my tooth eating cereal before. Like on the front here, there's a little bit of chip, but this one specifically, I was in high school. It was my senior year. I was at a house party, and this kind of like this guy I grew up with. I won't name any names, but like he's kind of going down the wrong path. So that summer before senior year, his parents sent him to like a military boot camp, like for juveniles.
Wow,
Pretty much
troubled youth.
troubled youth, like juvenile camp. And I guess he met this other guy there that was from our area, or he wasn't. I don't know. I didn't ask. But like, anyways, we're at this party and he has this friend. We've never seen him before. We're like, who is this guy? And he's like, well, this is my buddy. I met him at camp. He's just hanging out with me for like, 2 weeks or something. But anyways, long story short, like being stupid kids, we were like all chest bumping each other, like as boys do. And that one random guy, and he was like a pretty short, stocky guy, like pretty like strong looking dude for a high schooler. And like, he's like, let's go, let's chest bump. And I was like, okay, man, yeah, whatever. And at the time, in high school, I weighed a $135, and this guy was pushing like 200. So like, we go to chest bump, and I think we're just gonna like chest bump, but he gets like a running start, and then before I even am able to like get off the ground, he like just straight spears me with his chest in the face, and like it hits my jaw up, and I just spit out a chunk of tooth.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I think that's exactly where that chunk of tooth went.
Watch
like,
it on the YouTube, folks. Yeah.
Yeah, watch it on the YouTube. But yeah, that's exactly where. And I've been trying to fix that my entire life. And now I realize that I'm just either going to need to get it capped or like filled in.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know. It gives me character, I think.
That's cool, man. Yeah, all my chip teeth are in the back. I got my first cap, but
Chewing
that
on
was
ice.
just it's just from eating sugar my whole life.
Yeah.
Stay away from that sugar, folks. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, we have wasted a lot of time just talking about random stuff. Let's dive into the episode, folks. Welcome to the Pop Culture Field Manual podcast, sitting right at the intersection of weapons, action, the military, and pop culture, of course. Welcome to the episode. Today, Izzy and I are going to be talking about something Izzy is probably very familiar with as part of his military training, was creating these.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
insurgency and then counterinsurgency too,
Yep.
because when I was in Iraq, we were trying to establish and support the current government.
Yeah.
So the insurgency they were the bad guys, quote unquote,
Yeah.
in that particular instance.
Yeah. No, but today we're going to talk about all things insurgencies, rebellions, and those fighters that are looking for freedom, also known freedom fighters. So anything in pop culture that has to do with these themes and topics, we're gonna talk about them. So
yeah,
for all those that don't know, insurgency, or what an insurgency is the definition is an active revolt or an uprising. So
right.
They're pretty much, all these words are synonyms for insurgency. Rebellion, freedom fighters, they're all insurgents. They're different
Right.
synonyms for the same, different words for the same kind of thing. Different
Yeah,
strokes for different folks.
There's the established government, whatever that is, and then anybody trying to destabilize and take down that government, I guess maybe through violent means, would be considered revolt, rebellion, Otherwise, maybe it's just civil disobedience up to a certain point. Then when you actually start being like, no, we actually want to take down this government and establish a different one or whatever, you're the insurgency.
Yeah, but wouldn't that, if you want to overthrow the government and establish your own, wouldn't that kind of be like a coup?
I mean, I thought a coup was like a military kind of
military uprising.
Yeah, I mean, because
okay.
I don't know, maybe it all falls under the rubric of revolution, right?
Yeah.
Like what, if you're right, you can be a revolutionary.
Who's doing it?
Who's doing it? Yeah. Yeah.
Is it like civilians? Then it's an insurgency. But if it's a military, like general going rogue, is it a coup?
I've
You
always
know,
heard coup is being connected to military, like a military coup. I don't know what other kind of coups there are.
cuckoo, cuckoo. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
coups.
Coops. But with insurgencies, there's been a lot of different pieces of pop culture that have symbolized this or shown these through
Yeah.
means of creating rebellion, not only in a made up universe, but some are inspirations for modern day rebellions that have kind of become symbols. So like I see immediately the first one that stands up on the list here, which I've seen real life groups kind of emulate and use as a cover, V for Vendetta.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. V for Vendetta.
Yeah,
That came out
so
in 2005. Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's been, to be honest, it's a little confusing to me. I watched it as a young kid, and like obviously the mask is the most recognizable, and this is what I mean by like symbols used in today, because you have like the online hacker group Anonymous
Right.
have been seen wearing these masks when they make announcements or anywhere on the web.
Yeah.
That
They used it in Mr. Robot too. It was kind of
Yeah.
a version of that. It was kind of meant to kind of emulate that or be a version of that.
Yeah. So V for Vendetta, you have this figure, this one man that is waging war against a totalitarian state in order to kind of, spread a message and wake up the populace and remind them of their freedoms or something you put there.
Yeah.
And this takes place in the UK, right?
Yeah, it takes place in the UK. The movie does, and it's the future. It's based on a comic book by Frank Miller, I think. Frank Miller. Yeah, I'd have to look that up because I didn't do any research because who does that? But no, it was an early 80s graphic novel. And so the idea was like it's a fascist state, controls the populace. I think in the comic book, he was more like for anarchy, like he's like just embrace anarchy. And I don't know how they define
punk movement.
I don't know how you define anarchy. I never thought of that as like anarchy is like a total breakdown of all government systems. And I don't think that I don't know about that, but basically in the movie it was totalitarian. It was semi quasi religious, quasi Christian kind of thing. Government secrets, government cover ups, obviously propaganda, very 1984 type stuff. In fact, it's funny because John Hurt was like the face of the propaganda machine, the head of the state. And then V is a mysterious figure who wears a Guy Fawkes mask. Guy Fawkes is a famous character in the UK. He tried to blow up Parliament and he failed. And so they have, I think it's Guy Fawkes Day, actually. Remember the 5th of November, the treason and gunpowder plot. Yeah. So they burn him in effigy because it's kind of a reminder to the people to never let their government get too big or overthrow their government. Like the power is always with the people kind of thing. Our UK listeners maybe can add some more nuance to that, but that's the kind of basic. It's like the people are the real power. The government should never get too big. I think even in the movie, he says government should be afraid of their people. People should never be afraid of their governments, And so he blows up the Old Bailey, which is like a London, government building. And then a year later, he says he's going to blow up Parliament. And Natalie Portman plays Evie Hammond, who is just kind of a regular citizen. She doesn't want to get involved, but then through circumstance, she ends up getting involved, and then he ends up influencing her to become just like this total revolutionary. He kind of like tortures her a little bit without her knowing, shaves her head, and like then she really kind of ends up waking up to just the fear that she had of the government, of not wanting to get involved, of losing her. It's got a lot of governments kind of do this thing where they use fear and intimidation. The fear of losing your comfort, you're losing your job, losing your friend groups, and going to jail, all that kind of stuff in order to silence people. And that works for most people, right? It's kind of this herd mentality where, it's like, oh, well, I got it pretty good and I don't want to know if I want to say too much, so. But yeah, V for Vendetta, that mask, that Guy Fawkes mask is very iconic.
It is extremely iconic, and you talk a lot about this movie like you've seen it a lot of times. Like you know it very well. Should I be concerned? Are you gonna firebomb something?
It's good, man. I mean, it's good, and it's definitely one of those things like we can't do an episode like this without getting at least a little political.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been kind of biting my tongue, the past 150 episodes of this podcast. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like there's a lot of really good themes in this movie that are, extremely relevant today, especially in our current political climate when we have this crazy separation, this crazy segregation of, the left and the right. And then, then you also have the Epstein flight logs and everything from the from the case being released, and you're like, oh my God, these superpowers are, they're evil. Like, and we've seen historically in the past, couple of years how much power and influence the people actually have if they choose to do something about it. It just depends on the right reasons, or so I mean, during COVID, when we had the BLM riots, like you saw how fast things changed. Just because when talking doesn't work, I feel like violence is the answer. Is the answer if you want to change something and nothing's getting done. But it's like, okay, well, what's the reason for it? Is it a good enough reason to make things happen? But yeah, no, I'm a big believer in small government. Keep the fuck out of my business in a polite way to say. So yeah, no, V for Vendetta is kind of like a yearly watch. I definitely think people should watch it more often because, we do have the power. The common man is not so common, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's always been kind of the, the eternal struggle between like the populace and the rulers and how we define that relationship, because it's really, for most of human history, from what I know, it's really been like the idea of the leaders has been like either like they were chosen by God or the gods, like they were gods. It was like this divine kind of thing. And it was like lineages, like birthright lineage, like they deserve to rule because they were born into a certain family, or like they've been ruling for thousands of years, so let's keep it going kind of thing. It's only kind of more in the quote unquote modern era that revolutions started to happen to be like, no, the power actually is derived from the people. Okay, what does that mean? And then now you and I live in the United States, where our Constitution is based on the power being of the people, by the people, and for the people, And so, okay, what does that mean? And are we still in that era? And how far away from that have we gotten since since we began it? So
exactly,
that's
like
why
blocking, like blocking elections, like not allowing people to run.
Like, what does that mean? Is that really constitutional? And so
I mean, first of all, I'm not left, I'm not right. If everybody's trying to figure out what Cameron is, I am what I consider a common sense man. So, there's some things on the left I agree with, and a lot of things I disagree with. Same thing on the right.
So yeah, V for Vendetta, all that to say, totally. I'm glad we talked about this one first, because I think it's the one that I think maybe we can talk about some other ones. The other ones take like large, broad ideas about the government versus the totalitarian government versus the little people and them rising up. I think that theme is in most of what we're going to talk about today. V for Vendetta, I think, because it was taken from the modern era, I think it's a little more relevant. Even though I'm sure I mean, you guys can quiz me on this, but I guarantee you, Frank Miller, those kinds of people, old school lefties, old school like Democrat kind of, afraid. I guarantee you this was written about Reagan. I guarantee you this was written about, Republicans and stuff like that. Because there's just not a lot of creative people in the entertainment industry that are right leaning. So I'm thinking it was the Cold War. They were afraid that Reagan was going to press the button, and they're like, he's too powerful, But the idea of totalitarian, a fascist state, that can happen on either side, man. It's any group that wants to try to take over and suppress dissent, suppress dissenting voices, not allow freedom of speech, like you talked about, not allow freedom of movement, and then freedom to bear arms, which I'm totally in agreement, man. Those are the two fundamental freedoms upon which any successful society should be based, because once you take those things away, man, people are just, you can be controlled by the government, because only the government's going to have guns, and only the government's going to have speech, you know?
Yeah. Oh, dude, total. And that's 1984. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like that's step number one to complete communistic totalitarianism society. But absolutely, that's why they're listed. That's why they're number 1 and 2, man. First ones
Yeah.
to get read.
Yep.
Something. I mean, also like it's so weird looking at, I didn't take political science or anything, but I do enjoy my history and like seeing the parties switch, how they started and where they are at today.
Mm.
Like it was so interesting that like, during the Civil War, like all the blue states were the red states today and all the red states were the blue states. And like you
Mm.
look at like, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. He represented the Republican Party, and looking into it, the KKK, what everybody hates so damn much, they were Democrats. Like, dude, it's like, man, like the evolution of the political parties are. If you look into the history, like they are not what they are today. Like you would, like everybody's so focused on the activity, but not who did it. But anyway, too political for me.
It's you got to know your history, man. All of your
Yeah.
history, because
Yeah.
I'll admit, I've only looked at certain aspects of history before, but you got to look at all of it, and it's hard to do, and it takes a lot of time, and most people don't do it because of that fact.
Exactly. It's like you're like, what?
Pick and choose. We cherry pick, and they're like, well, that's
Yeah.
history. It's like, no, there's a lot more to it than that.
Sure. You have to understand all history, the good and the bad needs to be taught. It doesn't matter because history always repeats itself if it's not known. And if you know where things are heading, we can kind of interdict and send it a different way. But yeah, V for Vendetta, I think was an excellent choice to start this off. But let's talk about something that was hot garbage really quick.
Oh man, boy,
just
are you
real
ready
quick.
for this?
Just real quick.
I mean, we could have a whole episode just on
we
this.
could, and I think let's
alone.
just. I mean, it's relevant, so I think it needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
But folks, Rebel Moon was it was waited on. I know I waited on it when I
waited on it. I was so excited. I haven't been this excited for a movie in a long time, man, because the trailer got me, man. It got to me. It lifted me up. Zack Snyder's always had a great visual style. I'm like, what is this new world? What is this universe? Is it going to be this great kind of new sci-fi universe that we can build off of?
Yeah. Oh, what a disappointment. Oh my God. I'm actually super excited to talk about it with you.
Yeah.
All I've heard you say is it's Garbaggio. And I think we've both been on the same page since we heard about its release. I'm like, oh dude, this could be really cool. Just like you said, a whole brand new universe that's super awesome. Like, we had Dune, which is, and then we've all, in the past, we've had, Guardians of the Galaxy, the whole MCU. We're about to get an entire franchise that, the people deserve. And it sounded cool just based off the sci-fi, like Wild West type of theme and whatnot. And what the fuck was this movie about? What was happening the entire time? It was literally, to me, first of all, the writing was terrible. It was like, we're here, now we're left. And then we're going down and we're going to 360 and then we're going to do a backflip and nobody's going to know what's going on ever. And yeah, I mean, that's what I got, but also I ate an edible while I watched it and did not help
that might have influenced your perception of the movie.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Cameron, you probably did the right thing by having the edible, because at least your body was going through a fun journey and the chemicals in your body were but it turned it worse.
Because it gave me anxiety. I was like, am I stupid? Am I just this stupid to where I'm not understanding because I did this to myself? No. Why? Like, no, it gave me anxiety. I turned it off and put on Scooby-Doo instead because I was like, happy times, happy. But
Rebel Moon, it's the worst. I'm trying to find an entry point. Let me tell you this. Let me just say this. I started hearing that reviews were bad for it before it came out. I was like, oh no, it's getting really panned. And I am someone who, whether I like it or not, will be influenced by someone's critique of a movie before I see it. Like I'll have their thoughts in my head. Really? Yeah. So I said, we were going to do like a movie night with some friends coming up. We were going to watch Rebel Moon and we were all waiting for it. And then the reviews came out. I said, listen, I need to go and watch it by myself and just have my own untainted experience. And so that's what I did. I sat on the couch. I watched it. I watched it with the wife, but she doesn't care about movies, so she wasn't paying attention anymore. And I watched it, and I get that feeling. There's this feeling I get about 15, 20 minutes into a movie where I can tell I'm not feeling it. I'm not with it. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh man. And I can't really understand why. I have to process a little bit after the movie, but it's like, oh, it's either got me in the first 20, 15 minutes or it doesn't. And this movie didn't have me. And I'm like, what is so familiar about this movie? Why does this seem like really kind of like cookie cutter? You know, because it starts out great. It's got that monologue by Anthony Hopkins, sets up the universe, you know, the ship comes out of the space vagina, you know, in the beginning. Like really odd, like make it a little more square or something. But you know, he's like, oh, and it's like this, okay, the emperor, and then he was assassinated by, you know, and now there's the fallen struggle, king. And now the struggle, and the new leader he sends out because there's rebellion, right? Rebellion
to crush the rebellion.
Crush anyone who calls themselves rebel. Well, then they go to this planet, and it's like all of a sudden it's 7 samurai.
It's like farmers and shit, you know?
Yeah, it's the exact same storyline as Magnificent Seven or the 7 Samurai, where there's a village, the bad guys come, they take what they got, and they say, we're going to come back. For some reason, we're going to come back in 10 weeks and take your harvest, right? So so they have that time to go and find a couple of people, I guess, in the universe that are going to help them to fight. But it's not even like there's a rebellion going on, but they're not even part of the rebellion officially. Like they're just trying to defend their village. When they got like the space, they have a huge spaceship up in the planet. They could just like zap them all from orbit. But for some reason, they're going to settle for a ground attack with this village. Apparently, they're guessing that that's going to be the case.
Yeah.
And
you know, lazy. They're super lazy.
Yeah. And then it's just a derivative. Every scene is a derivative of like other movies. Yeah. It's just a collection of scenes. And I get that. Zack Snyder, if you think about his career, I was thinking about this the other day. What has he ever done in his career? He has done either remakes. He have done remakes of comic books, remakes of other movies. You got Dawn of the Dead. You got the Watchmen.
Justice League.
You got 300. You got Justice League. And then Zack Snyder, what does he do? He does Sucker Punch, which apparently there's some messaging in that movie, like some pro-women messaging, if you can look for it. But it's just like
that's based off a
14-year-old like threw up every video game and comic book they ever read out onto the screen. I'm not saying it doesn't look great, you know, and it doesn't have some messaging, but that's Zack Snyder. So he probably took all these ideas. He's like, I love this movie. I love this movie. I obviously love 7 Samurai.
It's an original idea. Look at that.
It's not an original idea. Nothing in that movie is original.
I'm saying Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch. Yes, that was
I thought that was a graphic novel, but yeah, that was his creation.
Yeah, and fair play to him, but that's who he is. He's obviously a very great visual guy. Like that's his thing. He's his visuals, you know. But this movie, I don't think he's a good writer. I don't think he does dialogue very well, and the logic of what he does doesn't add up. And it's I don't know. It's just the worst kind of like expositional writing, and then the character work wasn't all that great. And the characters that they had, they looked interesting, but nobody had a chance to like do anything. The whole movie, they're just, once they get the person into the team, they have the little scene where they get them into the team. They just like hang out in the background after that, you know?
Yeah.
That's it. And it's really just about Sophia Boutella. She's the main character who
happens to be a rebel.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she used to work for the Empire, and then she ran away, but then all of a sudden she's helping out because obviously the mean, evil, occupying soldiers tried to rape the innocent Viking girl. Yeah. And she showed up, and that was awesome, obviously. But it's just a lot of slow motion, which Zack Snyder's about. It's a lot of derivative ideas, you know, and I get like if I don't know. It's like a movie that I would have made, and I'm not a filmmaker because I like stuff, but I don't come up with original ideas. Here I am talking about other people's ideas.
Yeah.
You know?
Damn, dude.
I would have said, I like this scene from this movie. I like this scene from this movie. I like this idea. And he just smashed them all together. And what came out was just something that it's one of those, the critique I give was it's worse because I wanted it to be better. It's not like I didn't have any expectations and then it was what it was. It's like, oh, please let this be this great new start to like a new sci-fi era. And it just wasn't. And for that reason, I give it an even lower score in my mind because in my
they
heart,
built it up. Yeah, they built up hope. They made you a believer. They made, not to mention, they made you wait like a year. It was over a year of waiting and like like just hoping that this would be something. Like I think we've been looking forward to this for months, if not like over a year. And then,
it's not even done. Like I don't even know what they're gonna do in part 2.
Yeah,
because basically all they have to do now, I think they've gotten everybody, right?
They gotta take them down. They got the crew.
Now it's just the fight at the end around the. I guarantee you, it's not going to be strategic. Like there's going to be so many strategic like faults in this thing because you can see the layout of the village, right? It's on a hillside. It's got open fields to one area. And I guarantee you the bad guys are going to choose one way to funnel into the camp, even though they have multiple ways to approach it. They've got flying ships. They've got
my God.
troops.
Yeah, they could do
they could just carpet much. You know, like they don't have to.
But they don't want to ruin the harvest.
They could drop one bomb on the village itself. The village and the farmland.
Don't they have robots? They have like robots at their disposal that they could like not lose anybody. You know?
I mean, they could, but I guess all the robots are Anthony Hopkins and all the robots are pacifists or something. Yeah. Unless they decide not to be. Unless they decide not to be. And then he puts antlers on his head for some reason. Like I'm sure we're gonna find that out. Like maybe it'll jump back to the village and we'll see what they missed while they were gone. And there'll be this like relationship with the robot and the other lady. I'm just guessing, right? I'm just because I'm like
that's all we can do.
That's all you can get. You know, we'll find out in a couple months when part 2 comes out. He even has a rated R version of the first part that's going to be an hour longer. And I gotta know, like, what else are you going to put into
what, dude? I couldn't even get through I couldn't get through the PG-13 version. Why the fuck would I want to waste another hour?
I don't know, man.
And like, I'm sorry. Like, we're going to see one nipple. Like that's going to be the change. That's going to be the difference of the rating.
We're going to see that little spider lady. The spider lady's. They CGI'd out her nipples of the spider lady. They're going to put them back in. That'll be the rated R version.
Yeah. And you're going to say one more curse word. Like that's it.
Yep.
Dude. Yeah. I could not get through that movie. I don't know how it ends. I got to the spider lady and then the one who fights her, right?
The lightsaber lady.
Yeah. Lightsaber. And after that, there was like a guy, right? That they went after.
Yeah. I mean, the black guy, his name. He's been in a bunch of stuff. Amistad, Guardians of the Galaxy, but
yeah, he's
a general.
General Titus.
Yeah.
I think I fell off after the spider lady, and then I was like, dude, I have no idea what's going on. Yeah. So I just turned it off. But yeah, Rebel Moon, huge disappointment. Talk about a pretty sad insurgency. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? Let's cleanse our palates because we got to put this one in here. If we're talking about action, military themed, all sorts of like classic iconic images, what Rebel Moon was a derivative of, and apparently Zack Snyder's original story was his version of a Star Wars movie. So Star Wars is the classic Empire versus the Rebellion. So the whole franchise, whether you want to call it the Empire versus the Rebels, or you want to call it the New Order versus what is it? Not Rebellion. It was
oh man, in the new version, the newer movies.
Yeah, right? The new movies. It's basically the same dynamic. It's not the rebellion. It's the resistance. The resistance.
The resistance.
Yeah, it's the resistance.
Yeah, the resistance. Wow.
So because who cares? Because it's
yeah, who cares? Who cares about it? But the entire Star Wars franchise, if you like put the Jedi themes aside, it is 100% an insurgency, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, you have the Rebels. Intergalactic insurgency. Yeah. Man. I wonder, because obviously not taking a, what am I saying right here?
What are you saying?
What am I saying? Taking a quick side quest from Star Wars, but like, insurgencies, when they start it has to take an extremely influential person or like idea to be able to start, right? Because like And thinking about the global war on terrorism, like we were fighting Al Qaeda, which it's a type of insurgency, an
Yeah.
uprising for religious
Islamic
purposes.
terrorism
Yeah,
generally.
Islamic terrorism. So like, you obviously need to have such an influential message that, and I mean, if it's religious backed, like that's obviously a big factor. Like if you have believers that, are ready to put their life on the line for what they believe, that's believable. But when you think about like these movies about insurgencies, about political ideas, especially comparing it today, like we have everybody, you go on Instagram and everybody's complaining about how things need to change and, how we are literally losing our rights. And nobody, like, that's the extent of it, right? I feel like the worst thing that goes on nowadays is just people yelling at their phones and then putting it away and then paying their taxes. That's literally what I see. So like, to take an idea that you believe is worth dying over, and influencing others to join you in your cause, like that to me is a mind-boggling idea.
You know what's interesting about that, man, is if we're talking about Star Wars specifically, because I totally agree with what you're saying. Like, you have to have a unifying idea.
Yeah.
There has to be something that everybody can get behind, and
people have to be prepared to lose.
Yeah. And it has to be motivating. You got to have leaders at the top kind of spurring people on. But Star Wars, it's based, I feel like Star Wars, the originals at any rate, it was, and maybe the new ones too, but I'm trying to figure out the dynamic beyond just it's a totalitarian government, right? That is ruled by the emperor, right? He dissolves the Senate. That happens in the beginning of episode 4.
Yeah.
But and then you have a rebellion. And I guess I'd have to kind of like think my way through all of the different movies and stuff, because it was a representative democracy, but right, there was a republic.
There's a Senate. They had public representatives for the planets. Yeah.
And then, but they started getting, became ineffective, right? And people became discontent. And then there was corruption deep within it, right? Emperor Palpatine the whole time.
Yeah.
He was the one pulling the strings behind the back and making plans underneath everybody's nose. And just going up to the end of like episode 6, The Return of the Jedi, it was basically, so I guess the rebellion in Star Wars was fighting for the more Republican, for lack of a better term, a Republican view of the government rather than a totalitarian or imperial or empire type view, expansionist kind of empire type thing. So that would be that's the basic, freedom, right? Hope, a new hope, right? In episode 4, is kind of the motivating factor behind a lot of the rebels, so they're factions of the old government in the beginning of the in the middle of the movies, right? Because we start off with the Republic, and then there's the Clone Wars, and then that establishes the Emperor. And then, so basically he starts consolidating power. And by episode 4, we've got, we have remnants of the old Republic fighting against the Empire. So that's kind of like the dynamic there. So the unifying force, where they get all their information, tactics, equipment, people from, is remnants of the old Republic, basically.
Yeah.
The Republic that has now been kind of disestablished, or kind of gets in a little bit more into the guts of how the Republic really started building itself. Because right after, obviously right after in episode 3, Emperor totally consolidates power. He destroys the Jedi Temple. Everybody gets scattered, right? They're totally disarray, and then they consolidate power. And then not long after that, in terms of like, I guess Andor would be just a few years before episode 4. So in the interim, Emperor's consolidating power. It's very much like, it seems like in Andor, it's like very 1940s Germany type style, where you got the secret police going and finding, or any kind of communist era where they've got the government police going after and getting after free thinkers or people that are rebellious, so
or who they believe to be rebellious or
anybody that's not towing the party line. So anyway, just kind of the long thought process of kind of going off what you said. You do have to have a unifying idea, and usually in a lot of these movies and all other pop culture, there is usually a unifying idea. And you guys correct me if I'm wrong, leave a comment section or something. it's basically about freedom, right?
Yeah.
It's the freedom to live your life outside of the confines of this totalitarian government that only wants power to come from one place, that only wants people to talk about certain things, that only wants governments tend to, they're like animals, right? They're like blobs. If the more they consume, the bigger they get. It's like a big company or whatever. They exist to consolidate and advance their own power. That's all they really exist to do. Everything functions for the sake of the party, right?
Yeah.
I think communist China is like a great example. It's like they may have like capitalistic tendencies, but everything is designed to uphold and uplift and advance the party.
No, I mean, I feel like people differentiate, or they combine governments and say, like, between the market, like the economy, and how the government runs. I think a lot of people believe that they are one. So like for China, for example, they have a capitalistic economy, right? So they follow very capitalistic marketplace rules. But when you look at the government, that's communism. So people are just like, oh, China, they're capitalistic. And it's like, no, their market's capitalistic. How they make money is capitalistic, but how they establish rules and regulations is communistic. Like,
yeah. And honestly, man, I don't think that they're even all that capitalistic when it comes to even the functioning of their businesses. Like I've heard people, I know friends.
Well, there's a lot of big government rule over.
Yeah. And you have to have certain rules in your company that are in alignment with the Communist Party. And so I had a buddy of mine who, he had a business in China. He's not a Chinese national. He tried to leave the country. Banks just kept his money.
Yeah.
He still can't get it out. It's just like, yeah, you don't do what we want. You just don't get your money. And you have no recourse because the government is too powerful. And it's
who are you going to complain to about the banks not giving the money? The government? They're going to be like, nah, sucks to suck, dude.
Yeah. Because we are in with the banks. You know?
So no, it's a crazy thing. But no, Star Wars I think it's a really good representation of, like, plus the whole thing is like villainizing. We have to villainize the government, which I mean, for me is an easy thing to do. Because like it's an extremely easy thing to do.
Yeah, sure.
Especially even if you're super uneducated, even if you're, do you know what a common person to blame for everything that's wrong in this country is? The government. Yeah, I mean, that's something you don't have to be like a freaking genius to see. It's just like, okay, well, it's cold outside, fucking government turning on the weather machines. Did you hear about that conspiracy, the weather machine? Oh, for some reason, who was I talking to? Oh, I forgot who I was talking to, but he's like, yeah, I had a buddy. We were talking about conspiracies, and I'm like, oh, there's some really good conspiracies about, like, chemtrails for one, like the trails you see in the sky behind airplanes. Oh, they're actually dumping toxic chemicals into the air that makes us all stupid, so we're more easily manipulated. One conspiracy was that I heard that I never heard before, which I thought was absolutely hilarious, was that Obama, when they
Thanks a lot, Obama.
Yeah, thanks, Obama. When Obama was in office, the White House actually had a weather machine that he controlled. So basically, like, there was a lot of rain in California during Obama's office, or it was vice versa, I forgot. And he was a big pro-Trump supporter. So it was like when Trump got in the office. Oh, no, yeah. So basically in California, it was raining, but everywhere else, it wasn't. So like the weather was really shit. But then when Trump went in office, the weather got much better. So all the Republicans believed, see, Trump turned off the weather machine.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's we got to villainize. It's influencing people to share your ideology through the means of, providing a common goal worth sacrificing your ideals and your life for, or at least not ideals, but sacrificing your comforts for, and your relationships, and something worth sacrificing for. And then on the flip side, villainizing, political powers in order to, continue your goal. So there's a lot of things, and I'm sure, like, when you go through special forces training, I don't know if you remember, or I don't even think it's right to talk about, like, there's things, obviously, like how to deconstruct governments that we've seen come out of, like, there's one interview about a former KGB operative that came out and basically like said, yeah, like to destabilize like entire and motivate like other generations in order to, you know, achieve a goal, like a political goal, like the destabilization of a society, is like a very long process. You can't just go in and change things immediately. Like we're talking generations down the line in order to influence a change in how you want the future to be. But there was an interview with a KGB operative that came out and like moved to America and kind of started saying that like, yeah, like Russia's been doing this for a long time. And we started back in the 80s, you know, and now we're here today, almost 40 years later. And it's like we're seeing a lot going on, a lot of drastic changes. So, like these insurgencies, they're not just
Yuri Bezmenov.
Look
up, everybody. Look, Yuri Alexandrovich Bezmenov claimed in 1984 that Russia has a long-term goal of ideological subverting in the United States. He describes the process as a great brainwashing that has 4 basic stages. The first stage, he said, is called demoralization, which would take about 20 years. It's one of those things where if you go and you watch, I've watched some of this. If you go and you watch this and then you kind of track major trends in American society, you're thinking like, oh no,
you're like, this guy's not crazy. This guy ain't crazy. You
know? Demoralization. I'm trying to look up like what exactly he said, but yeah, look up Yuri Bezmenov. He's kind of one of those, if you don't like what's happening in the government at any given time, then he's one to be like, oh dang, like
yeah, let him cook.
Was Yuri right? You know, it's like, oh geez. And if you want, by the way, Cameron, I was thinking about like how much I could talk about in terms of my training. A lot of the doctrine, I think that I was exposed to between 2005 and 2009, I think is public knowledge now. I think it's being spoken about pretty openly. I just did a quick Google search for Special Forces Doctrine Counterinsurgency, and there's a couple of things that pop up that I'm like, you know, there's a Joint Chiefs of Staff documentary, document Joint Publication 3-24. It was valid up until 2021. I'm not sure if that's exactly what we went on of, but no, I mean, it's definitely, I can say generally like that. In Iraq specifically, it was counterinsurgency that we were worried about because sometimes we're insurgency, you know, sometimes like I think in Vietnam, if I recall my history correctly, we were trying to do insurgency with the locals like the Montagnards against the North Vietnamese government, right? That's
trying to overthrow that
harassment, raids, building relations with the local tribes and that kind of stuff. And then in Iraq, it was counterinsurgency because we were trying to legitimize the current government. We were trying to build them up and, you know, the elections and all that kind of stuff. And then, so the insurgency was, you know, agents from Iran, Syria, Iraq, you know, all the surrounding areas coming in and feeding men, weapons, and equipment to try to destabilize the government or, you know, at least kill Americans and coalition forces.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, dude, I mean, that's very interesting to know because like for me, we played as, you know, our respective units, we play very different roles. Like I know in Ranger Regiment, like we weren't concerned with influencing local populace. Like obviously they're a big contributor because they would ultimately, you know, assist you in getting who we needed to, especially when you go into BIT-TQ, which is battlefield interrogation and questioning. Like you want them to be on your side in order to feed you knowledge and feed you kind of tips that would help us bag someone at a higher level. So obviously, like the best way to do that is to be really is to get the locals on your side. But as far as just like constructing a insurgency to fight alongside, that was Special Forces job. Like we didn't do anything with that. Like we direct action raid, airfield seizure, that is our big things. We don't go behind enemy lines and freaking, you know, try to influence the populace in order to fight. Well, good, man. For me, just really quick, we didn't mention any video games, but there's literally a video game, Insurgency. The Insurgency game series is literally named Insurgency, and I thought it was worth mentioning just because I think when we first met each other, Gameology, Insurgency Sandstorm was our first episode we ever recorded.
That's true, man. That's cool.
Yeah, so that's a little fun memory. But
like 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago now.
Almost 4 years. Crazy, dude. Time flies. But let's do that's gonna do it for this discussion. Like Izzy said, we're probably gonna have to do a part 2 because we didn't even scratch over half of the ones we had written down here. But we have a fan question, and this fan question comes to us from Dylan Grimm via email. And Dylan wants to know if you could swap places with any character other than the main character in your favorite movie, who would you swap with? Oh man.
Okay, so a character from a movie, but not the main character.
Not the main character, and you have to swap with them.
It's a good one. It's a good question.
Ooh.
I mean, I guess it depends on who you call a main character, because if it was like Star Wars, I'd want to be somebody that lived, I'd love to be like, I guess Han Solo is considered a main character.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, I'd want to be like a Jedi, to be a Jedi in the days of like the High Republic, so,
Cool.
But they all freaking die, man. Most of them do.
I'd
love to be, it's not a movie, but what's his name? Cal Kestis from the Jedi series, the video game series, Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. He's a pretty cool dude, but he's the main character. So I don't know. Hey, that's tough. What do you know who you would pick? I'm having a hard time, man. I mean, AMG, but I guess he's the main character too.
Yeah, no, he is. Oh, that's a great question. Honestly, I would love to probably switch places with not a main character, but somebody in the John Wick universe that isn't John Wick, but is still part of the Assassin Syndicate.
Yeah.
Let's see. Like the guy with the dog. Like he's
Nobody?
not would you consider Nobody? Would you consider him a main character or like a supporting actor?
I guess you could. I guess he makes the cut for supporting because he's not in it all the time. He has some parts to play, but he's not the main dude. I think he's more supporting cast.
Yeah, so for me it would be like Nobody. I'd switch places with Nobody because obviously I'd love to just mess around in that universe and see what it's all about.
Yeah.
So that would be
I definitely would want to. I'm trying to think of fun franchises that I've enjoyed.
Fun
that aren't that aren't the main characters. Like all the main characters are cool. Maybe I can fudge it a little bit because maybe I can say I want to be from The Mandalorian, but I'll be Luke Skywalker's role in The Mandalorian because he's only in it for one episode.
Yeah, but then everybody would hate you.
In that series.
I'd never visit you on your island because I'm like, that dude's just a grouchy old man that's not contributing anymore.
Skywalker's still cool. He hasn't become embittered by life and written by Ryan
Johnson. He's still young
Yeah.
and doing, somehow being a Jedi master with minimal training. He's still good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
he hasn't failed. He's not a bitter old white man yet.
Yeah. Not yet. Just mad at the world for, it's crazy for Tiger Woods. All right. We
got a game
to play.
We got a game. I'm the game master. Yeah, but I got it here for. Before we do it, folks, I just want to say if you're liking what you're hearing, folks, we got a bunch of great content for you on YouTube. We got First Formation, weekly bits of pop culture that I'm excited for, things that I'll talk about on Monday. And then every Friday, you got the debrief where Cameron is rolling out some fun tidbits of military news. So that's on the YouTube channel. Come and join our Patreon, folks. We get extended episodes of everything, extra episodes on the second tier, and then live streams every month. We got a merch store, all sorts of good stuff for your perusal. And folks, if you want to hang out with me a little bit more, shameless promotion for my horror gaming channel, the Is Files, with some more channels on the way and in the works and behind the scenes. So that being said, let's do our game. This game is called. Are you ready, Cameron? This game is called Rebel with a Cause. I hope you're ready. Rebel with a Cause, because what good is a rebellion if there's not a reason for it? I'm going to give you the name of a real or fictional rebel group, and you tell me where it happened, meaning where on Earth or in what fictional location this occurred. Bonus points if you can tell me why they were fighting. So this is, you just tell me, I'm going to give you the group. You're saying, oh, this is in this. And then if you want a bonus point, you say, this is why they were rebelling. So warm-up.
This might be super hard. This could be really hard.
It could be, man. It could be. I think I'm looking at it. I think you might be all right. depending on
Okay.
the which franchises you're familiar with. But the warm-up should give you an idea. The warm-up is the Rebel Alliance.
The Rebel Alliance is obviously in the
Where
Star Wars.
bonus points for why? Where just
In the Star
Where did it
Wars?
where did it take place?
You mean like actual geographical location?
Oh, no. I think you were on your way. You were about to say it. I kind of messed you up.
Oh, like where? Like what movie? What franchise? What? Like that? Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
Star Wars universe. I don't know what planet. Honestly, all
That's
over
it.
the galaxy.
No,
All
yeah,
over the
absolutely.
galaxy.
The
Yeah.
Chris, literally,
And they're
the word it
okay.
is the Star Wars universe is the answer.
I see. Okay, so Star Wars universe, the rebels were fighting against the Empire, right?
Yep.
Because they are totalitarian and they want, like we discussed, they want everybody to think, act, and speak the way they want to, and they want to be free, and they don't want to deal with that. So, okay, I understand the premise of the game.
There you go. You got it. It's 150% correct, man. Okay, this is the first official one. The Stranded Insurgency.
The Stranded Insurgency. Oh my god. Okay, the Stranded Insurgency. I told you this is gonna be a hard game, man. I have no idea. The Stranded Insurgency. Huh. This is just my bad because I never pay attention to any details. I've probably
Like
seen the
official
movie.
names of things.
Yeah,
Well,
official names
I'll
of
give you
things.
a
I'm
hint.
just like,
It's not a movie, but it is a franchise that you are familiar with.
the Stranded Insurgency, huh? And I am familiar with it, huh?
Mm-hmm.
What is it from? Like that? Because like, I don't know. Is it from like the Halo universe? Because like they have an insurgency, but they have like rebels, which I was surprised to find out. But yeah, I'm just gonna say Halo because I have no idea. Shot in the dark.
Ooh, not quite. You were good. You were in the right pop culture area, but it's from Gears of War.
Really?
It's the guerrilla
Okay.
war waged by various stranded organizations against the remnants of the coalition of ordered governments in the Lesser Islands chains.
Gotcha. The cog. Yeah. Okay. So they're fighting that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a while since I played Gears. So, and you have like in the game, you have minimal exposure to like the people. You usually fighting the locusts the entire time. But that makes sense, man. I'm a good loser though. So let's keep going. Let's see how this
Hey, you
game's
learn
going to
something,
absolutely
man.
decimate my confidence.
Let's step into the real world for this one. Number 2, the Whiskey Rebellion.
The Whiskey Rebellion.
Where and why?
Where and why? The Whiskey Rebellion. I'm just going to go ahead and just go off the name and say this happened during the 1930s when in the United States, during the prohibition of alcohol. So we had, an uprising opening speakeasies, still running alcohol. This is where NASCAR was invented because people started souping up their vehicles in order to run from the law when they're transporting moonshine and whiskey. So I'm going to go ahead and say it happened in the United States because of prohibition.
You are correct, but in the wrong way. So I'm going to give
Okay.
you the points. It did take place in the United States. You just didn't get the bonus point for why.
Why?
The Whiskey Rebellion was a violent tax protest in the United States beginning in 1791 and ending in 1794 during the presidency of George Washington. The so-called whiskey tax was the first tax imposed on a domestic product by the newly formed federal government. And so there was a bit of a rebellion when that occurred. So this is actually the beginning of the United States during George Washington's tenure.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So that's really funny though, because you have George Washington who's fighting the redcoats, and they're like, no, we don't want to pay your fucking taxes. And then, we have this entire revolution. And then we're like, okay, well, we're going to tax whiskey now. And America's like, we just fought a war over this.
It's true. It's true. We
Yeah,
like our rebellions,
Dude, how ironic. But okay, cool. That's okay. Cool.
You got it, man. So let's go to number 3. This is back into the fictional land. The Brotherhood Without Banners.
Brotherhood Without Banners. Oh, man. Brotherhood Without Banners. No women allowed. It's only brothers allowed. Brotherhood Without Banners in fictional. The Brotherhood Without Banners. Man, there are so many choices. I have no idea, man. The Brotherhood Without Banners. Without banners, I'm assuming it has to be like super secret. But again, what type of insurgency is like loud and proud? I mean, I guess like Al Qaeda was, because and ISIS, they had flags. I have no idea. I'm just gonna say like The Last of Us or something. Thinking about that government and their brotherhood. I'm gonna go with The Last of Us.
Oh, not quite. The Brotherhood Without Banners is from, that's right, you're yelling at your radio right now, the Game of Thrones franchise.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was an outlaw band that was sent out to work against the Lannister interests in the Riverlands during the time of the War of the Five Kings. So this is in the beginning of the books. They're sent out officially by, in the show at least, or I think in the books, but by Ned Stark or Eddard Stark. He's like, go out. As the hand, he's like, go out and stop the Lannisters from marauding. And then once that regime changes to the Lannisters, they become outlaws because they got a new king and a new queen.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're kind of,
we're having a good time. We're learning. Men of the people.
We're learning a lot, man. Yeah.
We are learning. I love how like people are absolutely hate you right now because you're like not getting any of these. But that's okay. Here we go. Let's keep it going.
That's all right. We got 2 left. This is the next one, still in fictional land, fictional world. The Order of the Phoenix.
The Order of the Phoenix. Yes. Yeah, okay, that's going to be from Harry Potter. Right? That's literally, Order of the Phoenix. From Harry Potter, it's like all the instructors in order to fight against Voldemort. So, yeah, it's at yeah. No, that's 100% right. Yeah. And I was doubting myself for a second. I was like, wait, who's in it again? Yeah, Severus Snape's in it. That guy, Lucius Black, Sirius Black's brother is one of the heads. Sirius Black's in it. Order of the Phoenix, Harry Potter, final answer.
That is correct. I think you're wrong about who was in it, but you got the bonus point even as well, because you got Harry Potter. It's in the Harry Potter universe. Their purpose was to defeat Voldemort, but it was made out of Harry Potter and his friends. It's like a secret order that they create among the students, I think.
Really?
I actually don't. I mean, Chris put it in there, but and I have only seen a couple of the movies.
Here we
You
go.
are?
Literally, the original members of Order of the Phoenix include Sirius Black, Emmeline Vance. No, don't know how to pronounce that. Let's see. Is Lucius in here? He should be, because Alice Longbottom, Sirius Black's. No, it's probably Sirius Black, not Lucius, because Lucius was the werewolf man.
Well, it was founded by Albus Dumbledore to fight Lord Voldemort and his followers, the Death Eaters. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so Lily Potter was in it. James Potter was in it. Yeah, all the parents of all the iconic characters were in it. So I remember.
So you got, not only did you got like double bonus points for knowing the lore behind it. Good for you, man.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, I've seen Harry Potter, so that is one of the ones I do recognize. Okay, I'm ready. Keep going. I'm riding
all right, last one, man. This is for quadruple bonus points. You can take the whole thing in this one if you get it right. Nat Turner's Rebellion.
Nat Turner's Rebellion? N-A-T Turner?
Yep. Nat Turner's Rebellion.
Nat Turner's Rebellion. Nat Turner's Rebellion. See, I don't even know who Nat Turner is, and I hope that's not a super, like, if this is real history, I'm ready to learn. But if it's like a very prominent figure, I'm going to be embarrassed. Nat Turner. Nat Turner. Is Nat short for Natalie? I don't know. Natalie Turner. It's going to say it took place in London, in the UK, like everything else. Final answer. I don't know why. I don't know what it was.
Cameron, you got to learn your American history. This was an American event, historically known as the Southampton Insurrection, was a rebellion of enslaved Virginians that took place in Southampton County, Virginia in August of 1831. Led by Nat Turner, the rebels killed between 55 and 56 white people, making it the deadliest slave revolt in U.S. history. The rebellion was effectively suppressed within a few days at Belmont Plantation on the morning of August 23rd, but Turner survived in hiding for more than 30 days afterwards. So this is an early slave rebellion as things were starting to come unraveled in the United States leading to the Civil War.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
There you go, man.
There goes my American history. Maybe I'm just super... I got to look into all history, Yeah,
right. Not just, the good and the bad. And not
just history.
but
herstory too.
Herstory.
Herstory as well. Yeah. Well, I mean,
We don't just
you know,
study
I
our
didn't do
heroes, we
well.
study our sheroes as well.
Sheroes as well, you know. But man, that's just there's so much history in the world, and I'm so, you know, honestly, I did terrible at this game, but I'm glad I learned a little something, and that's what I like to do. So good game, Chris. Great
Good game, Chris. And you did great. Yeah. And you got a good attitude because if you learn something, then it's never a wasted experience. But
Absolutely.
that's it, folks. That is it for this episode. We appreciate you joining us as always. If you want to watch this, go to our YouTube. If you want to listen to it, it's anywhere we listen to podcasts, any platform. Yeah, send us your ideas, folks. If you want to send us an email to pcfmpodcast@gmail.com or slap us a message on our Instagram. For any future episodes, we got a lot of good ideas actually coming in from people about future episode ideas. So we appreciate that. Because it's I go 3 years in, it gets harder and harder to come up with subject matter.
This desert is becoming barren. We need the ideas.
Cameron?
All right. Well, with that, folks, cue music.